Morning, everybody. My name is Ryan Christ, and I have with us Marty Combest. She
Good
is
morning.
one of our sales reps based in Florida. So this webinar is about all things woven shades. So, everything from our Walden Select and Premier line to our natural roller shades, and then we've also got a really great new collection that we're introducing this morning. Um, so if you haven't attended these before, so these last about 50 minutes to about 1 hour. So we spend about, say, 45 to 50 minutes discussing, what the actual product is, how it works, things like that. And then we allot for some question and answer. There is, or I am actively watching the chat window. So there is a chat feature. So as you're watching this and you have some questions that maybe need to be answered and whatnot, and or maybe something wasn't clear, feel free to write that in the chat window below, and I'll be monitoring that throughout. So yeah, so let's get started here. So again, my name is Ryan Christ. I lead the sales and marketing team here at TEXTON, and Marty Combest is our guest host. She is based in Sarasota, Florida, where she just moved. She's our sales rep there. So Marty's been with us for about 5 years. Prior to that, she was actually a client of TEXTON's. So she
Yes, I will.
knows how to sell TEXTON to end users, and also what it takes to become successful in the marketplace too. So Marty, maybe spend about 2 minutes giving your background and why you love woven shades.
Why I love woven shades. There you go. So my background, like Ryan said, is I used to sell TEXTON. Had a great relationship with TEXTON before I started working for them. Prior to that, I worked I managed the Robert Allen showroom in the Dallas Design District. So I got to work with and learn from some of Dallas's top designers. So that was 10 years of knowledge I'm grateful for every day. As far as woven shades, always been one of my top sellers. I love working with the design trade, so that's probably one of the reasons why, because it's definitely a designer look. It's something that's going to finish off a room, so they always tend to go for that. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's as far as you want
Yeah.
more features of our, or just generic
No,
terms. Okay.
that's perfect. No,
Okay.
just want to give a taste of your background and
Okay.
whatnot. So, but yeah, so on this webinar, so we're going to cover really just kind of a quick overview of the woven shade collection from TEXTON. Also, some design trends that we're seeing. As I mentioned, we have a new edition that we're bringing to the market. A lot of folks, have asked, how does TEXTON's collection fit into the market when compared to things like, the e-commerce brands, all the big box stores, and so forth. So we have some good applications there. Kind of discussing ways to use the collection to grow your business. We've got some essential knowledge, like some do's and don'ts for woven shades, to really kind of help manage those expectations. And yeah, and then I'll allot some time for question and answer. So I do want to mention that this webinar is being recorded, just for such that we'll actually put this on our YouTube channel, and you can easily watch the rerun there and share it. And then if you do want any of the images or videos that are shared during this presentation, reach out to me, textilemarketing@texton.com, and I'll be more than happy to share this with you. So without further ado, so let's get into the design trends. And Marty, I know that since you work with a lot of the interior designers, you did a lot of that in Colorado. You're breaking into that in Florida, and then coming from the Robert Hill Beacon Allen showroom.
Robert Allen Beacon Hill.
Yes. Sorry. You have an interesting perspective. you kind of share with us some of the design trends that you're seeing with woven shades, how it's being influenced and so forth.
Sure. So, well, I mean, this slide says it all. What we're seeing right now is moody, moody, moody. And the paint is showing you that right there. And then it's all about adding texture at the window. So you're trying to build on that. This slide is a great example because you do, and this one as well. So it's not only texture, it's texture with drapery panels. They can be stationary or functional. The textures these days are a little bit more refined, not quite as wood and grass, but woven shades that look almost like fabrics. Um, you're seeing a lot of on HGTV and Pinterest. You're seeing a lot of homeowners who are actually, trying to duplicate an Instagram room or duplicate something. So they're actually helping you out by showing you a picture of what they're trying to recreate. And many of the times, it's these type of images. The other thing that we're seeing a big trend of is the transparency. So while people do want blackout and privacy, a lot of the designers are wanting a more transparent look, especially with functional drapes that'll provide the privacy that they need later on in the day. But beautiful pictures, beautiful slides. Love them.
Yeah, no, and like I said, all of these applications are fully supported. I know if you I'll looking here, doing woven wood with drapes is probably the number one trend that I'm seeing too. A lot of folks are mixing what we have to offer in Highland Park with the woven shade applications, so it turns out beautiful. I think this is actually the Queen and Mackenzie drapery hardware too. So very,
Oh,
very cool stuff. So
very
yeah,
nice.
so kind of jumping into what we offer as a Texton. So about 4.5 years ago, we launched the Walden Select and Premier line. So just kind of give a quick background on our history with woven shades. So we've been doing woven shades for a very long time. As far as manufacturing them and so forth. So about 2019, 2018, we actually got out of manufacturing those shades just because of space and economy, things like that. So we partnered with a company and we distribute the Walden Select and Walden Premier line. We also have a roller shade type of application that is a woven shade called the Portfolio Natural Roller. So as opposed to the other shades that stack like a Roman shade, this performs like a roller shade. And then today we're also introducing the Portfolio Natural Shade Collection, which is a replacement to the Combray book that you may have seen in the market. So very, very excited here. As we kind of look at woven shades, they're a great complement, not just for your business, but also for your client's home. So these are natural fabrics, and I'm starting here as if you may not currently sell woven woods, have very little experience. So we're kind of building the foundation, as we go forward, right? So all woven shades are actually a natural fabric or a material. So these are plant reeds and branches that are harvested and then transformed into a shade. Largely, these are all handmade products, right? So with that, it truly brings a stylish and modern design. More of a biophilic, nature feel for the indoors. So these are an Asian source product, right? So most, if not all, of these plants and so forth reside in Asia, mostly like Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia, things like that. So you have your ranges from bamboo to your rami kanaf, which is more like a jute or hibiscus type of a plant. And with that, it suits virtually any decor that you have. So be it traditional, modern, transitional, all of those things can actually, support a woven shade collection. So what's unique to what we carry here at a Texton is when you are working with a cordless head rail. So this is actually a cordless application, rather. This is a patented design. So when you're working with a narrow depth window, it's an inch and a half a depth there, and we've got some more detail as we move forward too. So as I mentioned, so you have liner options or privacy options from transparency to light filtering to room darkening. There's also ways to do what's called a twin shade, to where it's two shades in one, and it gives you a really maximum application for privacy. These book or three out of the four books do support these sliding doors and panels, or folding doors and panels. So yeah, great things there. So as you kind of see, how this fits into the market. So at the low end, you've got these big box retailers, right? So like your Amazon, your Home Depot. I would also kind of loop or lump in some of your larger .coms too, like your Blinds.coms, your Blinds.com, all of those things too, right? So, they may have things that look nice, but you have very limited customization when it comes to that. Fewer, say, designer options, right? The quality tends to be maybe not the best. So once you get it up in the window, it's going to look great. But I think, or from what we've seen, the more times that you operate it, they actually tend to fall apart. The components aren't as strong. Sampling is largely not a strong suit, for these folks. Here recently too, we've seen a lot of these niche e-commerce retailers coming into the market, like Everham, Two Pages, Smart Wings. This is over and above what you may have seen from like the Shade Store, which has a brick and mortar location. So these are kind of getting into more of your designer look and feel, right? But they still have a limited fabric collection. They can do a lot more of your niche custom sizes. The quality is good and a competitive price, right? But then here's a Texton, right? So we've got a very large expanse of it, and if you haven't worked with a Texton before, or you just started, I think what one of the key things that makes us unique is truly our customer service. And that's easy to say, but however, when you experience it and you work with be it the salesperson in your area, the customer service team that's based in a factory, you'll notice that it's a very high touch environment. So we kind of walk you through all this different pieces of your project, in ensuring that it's the right shade for the right application. So it's not transactional. So with that being said, looking at how Texton uses woven shades, and how we support that market, right? So you also have more options for motors. So yes, you do have your standard motor options, just say like from Duya and whatnot. But we also, since we manufacture other shades here at our factory, have the ability to also include things like a Rolaids Acmeta motor, Somfy, and things like that you may not have elsewhere. Um, and really, we're still offering a very competitive price. And then on the very high end, this is what I classify like your ultra premium, your Hartman Forbes, and so forth. So yeah, so this is kind of how we fit into the market. So, Marty, you and I were talking, about what makes our woven shades stand out when there are a lot of things to pick from. But as you're talking to the dealers and helping them, communicate to the end users, how do you kind of say, hey, here's where Texon shines, and here's why you should lean on a Texon, for a woven shades.
Sure, sure. Well, besides the fabric selection, because the fabric selection is actually phenomenal, and the new introduction of portfolio only enhances that. Everybody I've shown that book to, yes, I had one ahead of time, but everybody I've shown that book to, including myself, has a project or something that they want to use it for. There's something that fits in with everything. So that fabric selection is first. Price, it's actually a very well priced line when you compare it to our other competitors. Most people will come to this to Walden from TEXTON just because of the price. They'll start looking because it's going to give them a more affordable option for a higher end look, which not you can't say that about all products. The cordless system, I always talk about the cordless system. It's one of the easiest to use.
Yeah.
It's reliable, very, very functional. Customers love it. Designers love it. It's actually priced. Everything in the price list is priced as cordless, so it's not even an upgrade at this point. But the cordless system has been big for us because, like I said, it's very easy to use. And Ryan touched on the other big point, which to me is the 1.5-inch head rail. There's too many narrow windows out there. There's not enough narrow options. So being able to go to that 1.5-inch head rail, whether you're doing outside mount and you don't want it to come into the room too far, you want to use draperies behind it, with it, or whether you have a narrow windowsill, it works perfectly. So I love that option. And then I have to mention my absolute favorite, which again, you kind of touched on too, which is the twin shade. The twin shade, so many people when I was in Colorado selling these, they wanted their mountain views, but they needed to diffuse the sun, but then they still wanted privacy or blackout at night. So being able to have that softness that a woven shade provides and being able to see through it, and then being able to provide your privacy was huge. And not everybody offers the twin shade. That is something that just a few manufacturers offer, the separate operable liner. So to me, that's a game changer for us
Yeah.
and for most when they see it. So
Yeah. Yeah, and we actually have some great videos and photos on kind of how that works too. So, so yeah, so let's get to the new collection. So, Lori, you said is this the same fabrics as Cambrai? So, great question. So, so yeah, as we introduce the portfolio of natural shade, you'll find that. So yes, Lori, 13 of the Cambrai fabrics were moved over to this portfolio collection, but we also have introduced 50 new patterns. So these are, I mean, Marty, you've had this book now, kind of testing it in the market for about a month and a half, but these are quite beautiful, different materials, right? I mean,
yeah,
this is called Tuscan white, so more of a jute feel. Just very, very, ethereal fabrics here. So I love them. So
well, and it's there's such a mix of light and dark, and there's such a mix. You could really go. I was on a designer appointment, and she was picking out fabrics that went to an Asian aesthetic.
right.
I've seen people pick up ones going to a more contemporary aesthetic. I am putting them in my house in Florida, which will be a more beach aesthetic. But it really can absolutely just there's something for everyone in that book. There's range of every on-trend color that you're seeing right now. Even some grays, even though people are trying to
Yes.
get away from gray, there's some grayish that works beautifully. And there's also like some grays that mix with other colors when they still have the gray paint, but they're trying to bring in some other colors. You're going to see a lot of that in that book too, which will kind of warm up a room. So
Yep.
a lot of warmth, just beautiful, beautiful textures.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, with this too, so edge binding, right? So 33 fabrics do not require edge banding, but there are 30 fabrics that will require edge banding, and that is actually included in the price. So when you look at the product guide on our website, which go live here in about an hour, you will see that which fabrics need the edge banding and so forth. Just help help set the right expectation there. So Beatrice, you asked how much is the book. So the book is $200, but it is fully rebatable. So when you buy the book, we actually print out these rebate coupons, and there are 7 coupons of $35 and then one of $25. And so per job that you sell of 3 shades or more, you can actually mail this in. It's already pre-printed with your account number and your name and so forth. All you do is just write on your invoice number, mail that in with your payment, and say, hey, I want to apply this to my invoice, and there you go. So over 7 or 8 orders, your book will be fully paid for. So again, we have these in stock. We are ordering more as well. So so we are ready to go there. So Shona asked
I
us.
did see a question if
Yes.
it replaces the Cambrai book, but it does not replace Walden Select and Premier. So those are completely different collections. So your Select and your Premier are the ones that obviously have been around for a little while, but they have had updates, so they're very on trend as well. This is I would say that the portfolio collection, the price is out about 20% higher than Walden Select and Premier, and it's because of the level of the fabric. The options are very, very similar, if not the same, but the fabrics themselves are so unique that it's the construction of the fabric that's causing the little bit of a price bump in the portfolio shades.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Shona, to your question also, does this replace the other books? So, and just a quick note about Cambrai. So, the Cambrai book, it's not saying instantly discontinued, right? It's just a lot of the fabrics from the manufacturer have been phased out or discontinued, right? So you can still use the book, just be warned that some or that many other fabrics have been discontinued, but some can still be ordered, right? So as you're with your customer, just kind of call ahead into a text and say, hey, my customer is interested in these 3 fabrics of Cambrai. Do you have any in stock, this and that, and we'll be able to guide you through that. But we expect within the next year that book will be fully transitioned and discontinued, and then portfolio will be that full replacement. So just as an FYI. So yeah, so let's kind of get into the the schematics of woven shades, and like I mentioned, if you're not familiar with woven shades, this is a great say primer on what the product is. If you are familiar, then this is a great say refresher on some aspects, right? So you got your classic wovens on the left. We've had these for quite some time. Your Walden Select and Premier. We just introduced more of our luxury line, being the portfolio natural shades. But then, as we also mentioned too, there is also a format. It's called the natural roller, and this is a shade that actually the form factor is a true roller shade, and it is made out of woven material. And there's some ways to work with the privacy in that, and I'll show you how that works here in a second. So amongst all of our woven shades, so you have things from the online to light filtering to room darkening, and then as Marty mentioned, the twin shade there. With the online, we always want to I recommend that you have a lined valance, right? Because without that lined valance, you're going to see all the mechanics of that shade, and it's just not a good look. And I've got some application shots of what that is.
And oh, sorry, Ryan, if you're doing the standard, if you're doing the waterfall and because you don't want to balance, if you're doing it unlined, they're going to automatically put in a 4-inch blackout inner balance, which would be just right on the inside. So that just means your top 4 inches would be darker. And that is so that you don't see any of the mechanics from either side. So that is the reason for that. So that is standard for them to do an inner balance on the lighter weight fabrics if you were doing a waterfall application.
Yep. Yep, and then moving towards the twin shade on the right. So this is essentially a dual shade application. As we look at it, so this is actually a hand sample that Marty has, but this shows you how that shade works, right? So so your first shade goes up, your privacy layer comes down, and there you go. So, great application, if you want a true room darkening scenario, but also as we're talking about the what is it? The natural rollers. This is actually how it works because you to have your true privacy, you do need two shades in that, which I'll show you how that factor works here right quick. And evidently, I have two duplicate slides, which is great. So yeah, as you know, as we're kind of talking more about the twin shade application, so you do need a 3.5 inch, a minimum depth there for a manual. But Marty, you were saying that you can actually do manual with motorized in some applications.
Correct. You can mix, you can do a cordless front and a motorized back if you want to, like, if you think you're going to leave the front down most of the time and just pay for the motor in the back. It would change your headrail depth. It'd make it a little bit deeper. So that's something to consider. But even to do a twin shade cordless at 3.5, most newer homes, most builds, not in every region I know, but most builds 3.5 is pretty easy. That's a depth. It's very easy to work with usually.
Yep, yep. And so we had a couple questions come in. What depth is needed for the twin shade to be fully recessed? So I guess what 3.5 or 4 inches? Boy, it depends on your operating.
I would say you would want to account probably for 4 inches because 3.5 is your board. That doesn't include the face material or the liner coming off the back valance. So you have to consider the depth of your material. If you're using a premier thick shade, then you would just have to account for that if you want it to be fully, flush with the window frame.
Yeah.
But your board will only be 3.5. So it's just a matter of maybe how big your front your material is. Forgive me.
Yeah.
No.
And then Kelly asks, can natural woven rollers be made wider like the traditional roller shades? So remind me, Marty, what is the maximum width of the natural rollers?
Natural rollers maximum width is 90, I believe, for the rollers.
Pop quiz,
So
right?
yeah, I know. Well, it was like 84, so, or yeah, I believe it's 90 by 96.
Yeah,
It is, but they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful.
yeah, yeah. So as we, just kind of going into what those natural rollers are. So, when you look at the material, right? So it is more, say, of a screen type of a fabric, right? So, you just the shade itself, you don't want it, say in a bedroom or something like that. But if you do want it in a bedroom, that's when you would get the twin shade liner for the back, right? And it works. It's just like a dual roller shade. So what you're looking at here on the right hand side is that dual shade bracket. So you're looking at a 3 3/8 inch depth for that. So
Right. And your front shade is reverse rolled, like it's shown in the picture, and your back
mhm,
shade comes off standard. But just like any other roller shade, if you're doing blackout, just keep in mind that because it is a roller shade, it does have a light gap, more so than if you're doing the standard Roman shot style. So if blackout room darkening is a concern, just keep that in mind that just like all rollers, you're going to have more of a light gap with the roller shade than you would with the Roman.
so top down, bottom up, yeah. So it's available in cordless only for Walden Select, Premier, and the natural shade collection. So
So in Premiere,
yes,
not every shade, not every fabric in the Premier book is available in the cordless top down, bottom up. In the front of the price list, you have a list of fabrics, and there's actually a category that says cordless top down, bottom up, yes or no. So you would want to look that up, and it's easy to tell because it's the thicker, heavier fabrics that are in Premier that are not available in the cordless top down, bottom up, but I would still double check that. And your maximum width for cordless top down, bottom up is 60.
yep, perfect, very perfect. So I asked Marty to co-host this with me because she is. I would say that she kind of pushes the edge of what's possible with woven shades and like almost mixing different parts of what we offer as a Texton to create a room scene, right? And this is super cool. So this is using really the balance only option within the collection, and then using it with a roller shade from our color line. So Marty, kind of walk us through what we're seeing here, because this is pretty cool.
Sure, sure. So this was obviously a very, it was a low window, you can kind of tell. And so the designer was trying to get maximum height. So we actually did the balance only in the woven fabric, and we did the full 18-inch height so that we could build on the window, and then did one of the color roller shades behind it. And so the roller shade actually is a blackout shade. So you're getting all of your function from the roller, but you're getting all of your pretty from the woven shade. You can do these with up to 1.5 to 5.5 inch depth as far as your head rail, and your returns for an outside mount would be made to the same length that your balance is. I would consider these for over a kitchen sink if a customer is concerned about water spots or something hitting the woven shade, or if you're trying to tie it into another woven shade in the room. If you were doing 2 shades, 2 rollers, and you wanted something over the top, maybe on a slider or something like that, and you wanted to build on it, knowing that you can get the height, and it's a very affordable way to bring texture into the room. I had a designer in Arizona actually do this with our basics rollers, the
Mhm.
basics rollers being a very, very affordable roller line. And they did the blackout there and then brought in the balances to kind of tie in the rest of the house. And it looked really, really great.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So using a basic, which is it's still a very high quality product, but it is our budget line, and then mixing it with a premium option from Wovens, like you can get a true, let's say, luxury look and feel for almost any budget, right? It's just knowing how to mix and match the different products from Texton to kind of make that happen. Now with that being said, the lead times for these products are going to be different, right? So we'll knock out the roller shade in less than 10 business days, but the actual balance only would take longer. So just kind of managing those expectations on a lead time, because they are two different factories and so forth there. So
And I saw someone asked about the max width of balance only, that's 96 inches.
yeah. And then let's see, Lori, you had a question here. Let me go back and see what you said. Is the back shade still the natural roller, or is it color? So Lori, it is a solid color. So there, I think 5 or 6 different options to choose from in the book, right?
I think there's about 15 for
Okay,
the
I think
fabric
correct.
options. You have probably
That's
5 or 6 light filtering, 5 or 6 room darkening blackout, and then you have
that's right.
some more linen kind of sheers, maybe just to diffuse the light a little bit more.
Yep, perfect. And then, what is the max length? And this comes from Tiffany, so I'm assuming she's asking what the max length is of the natural roller. Do you know what it's an 96, right?
96,
Yep, yep.
96.
That's what I thought. So, all right. So, um, kind of getting into the controls and so forth here. So again, so if you haven't heard, so about a year ago, the WCMA and the production team, they have mandated that everything must have a very specific cord tensioner. So as far as the traditional cord loop on these, that has gone away, right? So with that being said, so we offer 4 different types of operations. So everything from your clutch to your cordless to your motorized one, and then actual remote control motorized. On the cordless application, so whether you're getting the natural roller or the actual woven shade in a Roman stack of format, it kind of performs like a zero gravity shade. So it's not your tug and pull like your old style Roman. It is a very premium feel. Marty, so these have a 15-inch minimum width on the select, and
Yes, absolutely amazing, right?
yeah,
15-inch
exactly.
minimum for cordless on the Roman style and 13-inch minimum on the natural roller, which I actually had to go back and double check. I thought that was a misprint.
Yeah,
I
I
was
did
pretty
too.
excited about the 13" because when you think of side lights, a lot of times that 13" will fit in there. And being the roller style, there's no strings on the back. So there's no issue with putting that right by the front door because you would just have the natural texture, not any strings. So that's a nice feature of that. But I thought the 13" and the 15" were wonderful.
Yep. So, and then what's neat about a TEXTON is, you can actually, if you don't want the standard Duya motor inside of the shade, you can actually opt for what's called, like a motor ready type of option, where it's manufactured and then shipped to TEXTON for a retrofitting using the a Volta or a Rolls Acmeda motor and or Somfy. And what's nice about that is sometimes, you're needing to place these shades into a home that has a control for or crash on things like that, that need more so your advanced motor integration, and that's where those applications come into play. You can also get the Bond Bridge Pro and things like that. Now, if you don't need that, then things like the standard P hub works just well. But more often than not, when we do the motor conversion at our factory, it is because someone wants to integrate into a home automation platform. Um, Typical lead time on that, I would estimate an additional 2.5 weeks for that to come to TEXTON, us to retrofit it, and then for it to be shipped out. So just as an FYI. So
Well, and yeah, so I always suggest to my customers that if they want that option, if they want a Rollies or Somfy motor, let customer service enter it, because there's you have to not only enter you have to enter the new motor, you have to enter the fee to change the motor, and you have to make sure you're shipping to Texton, and then we're shipping to you. So I would suggest letting customer service take care of that for you if that's what you need
yes.
to do.
Yeah, definitely don't do it yourself in pick, because that could just be problematic. Yeah, call in, have Leanne and her team help you out because they are the experts on that. And I'm not, so don't ask me how to, because I will tell you wrong accidentally. So
I'm sure I'd ship the motor to the wrong place or something.
it happens. So we're salespeople, not customer service,
I
right?
know, that's why I use it. Yep.
So. Yeah, so pricing, it works just the same as any other product, right? So, you've got your standard price groups. I think with most of these, there's five price groups, and then you've got your light filtering liners, your room darkening liners, things like that. Um, as I mentioned, if it requires, or if the fabric requires edge banding, it is included in the price more often. And also, as Morty mentioned, if you have a top down, bottom up application and your customer is interested in the premier shades, be sure to look and see, is this fabric, or does this fabric work with a top down, bottom up application? So, on the twin shade, so if you do a twin shade, it's kind of like a three-part price, right? So you got your front shade, then you would do your liner, but then you would need to add a $316 a surcharge, and what that surcharge is really adding on a new tube, those brackets, things like that, because you are actually adding a second shade. And then, as Marty mentioned, her concept of the balance only, which is a great option to kind of mix and match our products, is just a $50 a surcharge. So. Um, Michael asks, can the liner be attached to the back of the woven shade to eliminate a second headrail? So on the woven roller, no, just because of the thickness that it rolls up at. So
But on the Roman shade style, absolutely. The
yes.
liner can be attached, or it can be operated separately. It's whatever your preference is.
Yeah, and it's just the twin shade, just gives it more, more unique features. Like not every shade needs to be a twin shade type of application. It's just something neat in case they do want a different liner or look from the actual natural weave or woven material. So important things to know. So again, when you're working with a woven shade, be it the Walden Select and Premier or the Natural Shade Collection and or the woven rollers, you're working with a natural product, right? So these are handmade products. So there are some things to know about this. But just some quick technical specs. If you want, feel free to take a screenshot of this image here. So these are all the required depth and guides.
And each of the product guide price lists online has a page.
Exactly.
In Select, it used to be page 11. I don't know what page it is now that they just changed it up a little bit, but my favorite page, I would print that and I'd have it in your little book or, in your notes, just because it is great information to be able to see that and kind of show when you're on the job site measuring. So.
Yep. Yep. So going to valance and liner. So as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, this is an example of not having a liner on, or not having a liner to cover your hardware, and so it just doesn't provide a very good look, right? So I know Marty has experienced quite a few say surprises, right? Because of a varying depth of windows or a customer, remodeled something after it was measured. All of these fun things. So as I kind of go through these pictures, she has some funny stories as what she's experienced and what not to do. So um, Marty, I think you and I were working on that project in Colorado where the returns just weren't working for her. Uh,
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Well, and the thing to consider with the return, so obviously for outside mount, you want to have a return. Your returns come standard at a 4.5-inch depth, but your balance is 6-inch.
mhm.
So that is something you want to review with the designer, because then a lot of designers would rather customize it to the 6-inch, which is fine. There's no upcharge for that. You just have to specify it at the time of order. So if you want it to be a clean look all the way around, then you'd want to specify it at 6-inch. I've had numerous people order it at the 4.5 and then be like, what happened? But the 4.5 is there because when you stack the shade all the way up, it's going to prevent the shade from pushing the balance and the returns from pushing forward, because that's why they make it a little bit shorter. So if you're going to order the 6, you would want to do that in a situation where you're not trying to put the shade all the way up to the top for view. Personally, I think woven shades should be at about 20% all the time. They're too pretty to raise their all the way to the top every day. That's kind of defeating the purpose of the woven shade. You want to see it, add that texture to a room.
Yeah, exactly. And then, as we mentioned too, this is, most of these shades have a Roman stack, right? So when you're looking from the outside of the property in, and the shades are always down, you're going to see the cords and so forth. So, if someone is concerned about the look from the street, this is probably where a twin shade or a dual shade application would help to kind of hide hide that. So, Marty, what have you experienced when someone installs it and like, oh my gosh, it looks terrible from the street? Like how did you kind of set those expectations?
I mean, you just want to, I've always had a hand sample when I've worked with designers, something we could show. I think it's very important that they do understand the little rings that are going to be there. A lot of people want a Roman shade regardless, so they understand it and they're going to be okay with it, whether it's a fabric Roman or a woven Roman.
Mhm.
But if they're absolutely concerned and do not want the rings to the front, that's where you, in the sales process, might show them the woven rollers, maybe for the front of the house, because there are no strings, and they won't have that issue, and they can still have the liner put on there. So it's just a matter of, like I said, a hand sample goes a long way in setting the expectation. I think ultimately, we've been able to talk to a homeowner when they said they didn't like that, was just kind of how pretty they are from the, inside, how much they enjoy them from the inside, and that if you really stand at the street, you probably can't really see the rings.
Yes.
If you're standing right in front of the window, you can, but I'd say setting the expectation up front is going to save you some worry.
Yep. Jerry Furch asked if I add a return to an inside mount shade because it sticks out 1 inch, does the width of the shade become smaller?
Yes, they do take that into account for the deduction. So they do take that into account. So you can solve that two ways. If you want to trim the return after it arrives, you can order it as an outside mount and take your own deduction and get the returns, and then you can accommodate that. But if you do order it as an inside mount with returns, they will take that into account for your deductions.
That's awesome. Yeah, so just kind of moving along here, we've about 15 minutes left in our allotted time. So resources. So if you've been to the texton.com site, so under the link at the top called a price list, that is where all of our product guides are listed. And those do get updated from time to time. So if you haven't, please make sure that you've subscribed to our weekly email that goes out every Monday, where not only do we list our lead times, but we also call out which price guides and product guides have been updated, so you can make sure that you have the right version with the client and things don't get miscommunicated. So. Other resources too. So, we mentioned hand samples, right? So we do have the ability to order hand samples for you. And what's neat is that if you are a Shape Perks member, so tier 1 and up, you can actually use your Shape Perks dollars that can be spent towards a hand sample. So if you have any questions on that or what your balance is for the new year, email me textonmarketing@texton.com. And then again, too, the books. So someone asked what the price of the books are. I actually can't recall exactly what each price of that book is, but I know that I can get that to you here soon via email. So again, so this was probably maybe the best time for more question and answer. Or Marty, if you have any more stories of the field to share with our dealers of what you've experienced, like great projects and great wins, how a dealer, once they maybe got going with Woven Woods, how it really kind of changed their business, things like that. So.
Well, I definitely have been on with numerous clients in Colorado where the customer called and said they wanted roller shades or blinds. And we ended up showing a couple woven shades or styles, maybe for specific areas. And because it is a more affordable line, a lot of people either didn't know it existed or thought it would be too high. So they thought they were looking for the most economical thing by saying they wanted blinds or rollers. So it's definitely been an upsell. It's been something that once the person sees it, they may not do it throughout the house, but they might do it in their more focused areas. And it's been something that gets referrals. So woven shades, as much as I love rollers, and I had rollers in my house in Colorado, most people don't walk in unless they're motorized and going, then say, oh, I've got to have that roller shade. But woven shades, there's been numerous referrals for many of my customers where they had another lady over and she was like, I have to have a shade that looks like that. So that's been good. I think if you're trying to build designer business, I think a book like Portfolio Rollers and Wovens are absolutely going to appeal to designers. I find that my customers that were more designer based, that maybe did whole rooms, windows, everything, definitely sold more of the woven shades than anything else that we offered. And the cambray, when we had the book that they could go from, we haven't had the book in a couple of years, so that's been huge.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, just knowing that you have a shorter, less depth option. A lot of times people are asking for cell shades, or you're thinking cell shade because that's usually the smallest head rail. But knowing that this is 1.5, just gives you an opportunity that you may have not thought you could have before. So.
Yeah. And then Jerry asked, let's see here. He had a follow-up, and actually, this is Kim's question because she asked this when she signed up. If I ordered the clutch on a shade, it's my understanding that the clutch side will have a greater light gap than the other side. Is that correct? And I would say yes. So
It will. It's like it's I think 5/8 and 7/8. It's clutch adjacent, so that you don't. You have to remember it's a natural woven material. So if the cord is rubbing against the material, you're going to uh, disintegrate that area. So it's a matter of protection of the shade. With cordless being the same price, I don't know if I would not order cordless unless the person just had to have the cord. Um, just because then you don't have the same gap. You don't have that larger gap.
right. Shona says, I'm so glad that there's a twin shade in the woven roller. I will definitely show these more. So that's good to know. So any other questions? Let's see. Are the Walden's Select are Walden Select and Premier Fabrics the same price? No, there is a price difference from those two books. So
And the way I've always kind of referred to Select and Premier is Select tends to be a little bit more, the textures are softer, lighter. There are still some nice weaves in there, but don't get me wrong, but there's not the heavy woods. Premier book, it just has a lot of the heavier textures. So I think that's where the price difference. It's not I don't think it's a consistent like portfolio. When I priced, there was pretty much a consistent, like percentage. I think it's just a matter of which fabric you're choosing out of Premier.
yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
And yeah, and then someone actually said, or probably someone from our team, I mentioned the Walden Select and Premier books are $150 each. Again, fully rebatable, and the Portfolio roller shade book is $200, and again, fully rebatable. So
Great.
so yeah. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? Um, you know, but yeah, if you do, email myself. It's textonmarketing@texton.com. Also, every one of our field reps has the same knowledge and expertise as Marty. So just wanted to introduce you guys to the world of wovens. There is a lot more to come with wovens and Texton. So and then again, let's see, we have one more a question here from Kylie. Can roller shades be motor ready as well? Yes. And 1 inch, inch and a half depth on the natural roller.
No, the depth is more on the roller.
Yep.
I don't remember exactly what it is. Forgive me.
Marty, come on.
I know, forgive me. I'm thinking it's 2.5. And then there's with the roller, you also have it would depend too on the cassette option, open roll. There's a box balance. So with the rollers, there's multiple head rail options or balance type options. So that would be a consideration as far as your depth.
Yep. Cool.
And I did see someone asked if we offered a standard shade and waterfall, and we do. So I thought I saw that question pop up. So you can do it off the front or the back in the Roman shade styles for all 3 collections.
And then Jerry asked, I may have missed this, but when would I be able to order the new Cambrai shades or the natural shade collection? So Jerry, right now. We just so Jerry, we just turned it on in pick, so the book is available to order. So if you or Kim want to call or email customer service, in fact, Kirk or Curtis may be able to run the book out to you. So and then Lene had one more question. Do you know which fabrics were used on the install photos? So I will get you a list of those. I know some of those were, truth be told, they were renderings, but we did use the actual fabrics in those. So I will find that out for you and get that to you here soon. So let's see here. Where do you
Fabric
see?
selections, yeah.
Yes.
So fabric selections, everything's on the website right now except for portfolio.
Correct.
The portfolio, right, I don't know when that will be on the website, but select, Premier, and the natural rollers are all on the website.
Correct. Yep. So I will probably have it on there. I'd say maybe mid February, just with everything moving right now. So, they will be on there. So,
And
um,
you can order samples. So if you are working on a project and you see something online, or if you're selling a project and you want to order a sample for your designer or for your customer to keep, then you can order samples through TEXTON customer service. They'll have free samples sent out to you.
yep, yep. Yeah, so all right guys, so our next webinar is going to be late February. I'm going to send out a save the date here in a bit, but it's going to be on everything that you want to know when selling exterior shades. So pretty hot topic in time. And so Jeff Miller will be with us, and so it's going to be a fantastic webinar. So again, all right, guys, thank you so much. I will have this recording online within about one business day. And as I mentioned, any questions, feel free to email textonmarketing@texton.com, and make sure that you also subscribe to our weekly emails that go out with our lead times and updates and so forth. So, all right, folks, thank you so much, and we'll chat later.
Thank you.